I see another one over there, Dov. Is that a spare?
That's the one you just gave me.
Okay. Okay, so with Shavuos coming up this Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday, right, the 2-day Yom Tov of Shavuos. So I wanted to go through, and Shavuos is, of course, the Chag, the holiday of Matan Torah, of the Torah being given. One of my rabbis used to joke that the other regalim all have their mitzvot. Pesach, we have matzah, maror, and no chametz. Sukkot, we have the sukkah, we have the lulav and the esrog. What is the unique mitzvah of Shavuos?
Cheesecake.
See, he would say, Psuke de Zimra. Right, Psuke de Zimra is the very start of davening, Shabbos and Yom Tov morning, that most people come late to or miss in its entirety. But Shavuos, since we're up the whole night, so everyone is there for the beginning of davening. So the mitzvah is Psuke de Zimra. That's the holiday that we get to do that special mitzvah that we often miss. Okay, but the Gemara gives us a fascinating glimpse and many lessons that go along with Moshe ascending Har Sinai. Now, Moshe's ascent to Har Sinai was, of course, after the Aseret HaDibrot. That is when Moshe went up and then was there for the 40 days and was taught the Torah, received the Torah, after which he came down with the 2 tablets and the Aseret HaDibrot. Shavuos is none of that. Shavuos is the time when we assembled at Har Sinai and heard God speak. Right? That was the revelation to the entire nation. That is what took place on Shavuos, and then 40 days later is when Moshe came down with the tablets. We had miscalculated the 40 days, and therefore we thought he was not coming, went into a panic, Chet HaEgel, sin of the golden calf, etc. But let us go through this Gemara, which discusses Moshe's ascent to Har Sinai. Moses' ascent onto Mount Sinai in order to receive the Torah. This is the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Peichet Amud Bet. We'll start with 88b, and then we'll turn the page to get to 89a, to get to Peitet Amud Aleph. Yes, Dov.
When Moshe first goes up there with the bush burning, isn't that kind of like a...
Wait.
That was way...
When he goes up there?
Yeah, when the bush is burning.
Okay, well he was around the place of Mount Sinai.
So here, isn't that like an illusion? You're gonna be on a miracle level in an environment where...
That's an interesting point. That's some discuss. Okay, not really related to us today, but that's an interesting point. Okay, so let's go to page 88b, the first side. Right, there's 88b and 89a. Make sure yours says 88b, and you have that large arrow pointing to where we will begin, and above that, blocked off, you've got the English also for those who prefer to follow over there. For Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi. And Yeshua ben Levi said, Bisha'ah she'ala Moshe lamarom. At the time that Moshe ascended lamarom, to the heights. Amru malache hasharet lifnei hakadosh baruch hu. The ministering angels said before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before God, literally the Holy One, blessed be He. They said to him, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, Ma liyelud isha beinenu. Moshe didn't simply climb the mountain. Moshe entered the spiritual realm. Moshe didn't eat for those 40 days and 40 nights. As the angels, as in that heavenly sphere, their nourishment, their sustenance does not come from anything physical. Moshe entered that realm. He entered that sphere. So they said, what is a Yulud Isha doing Beinenu? What is a person born from a woman doing amongst us? Now, this term, a Yulud Isha, is in no way a put down to woman, but this is simply what is a human being doing amongst us. Now, what is as is often the case, that which is our potential downfall, that is also the key towards our rising up to the highest of levels. A Yulud Isha, what is the meaning of a Yulud Isha? Again, born to a woman, but what does that mean? It is a physical being. What is the downfall, which we'll soon see actually is the potential of a great elevation? But what is the downfall of this physical creature? What would you say?
Sin.
Sin.
You mean Adam when he ate the fruit?
I mean a physical creature. A physical creature means that in addition to our spiritual self, we have a physical component.
Okay.
And this physicality is drawn to the physical. And therefore we, as Mesilat Yesharim discusses, we are in a state of constant battle. Are we going to be lifted up towards our spiritual self, our spiritual yearnings and aspirations and wants? Or will we be pulled down towards the physical, lustful, materialistic aspects of who we are and the world that surrounds us? That is what creates bechira. That is what creates free will. Now, on a certain level, that aspect of having free will is a tremendous desecration of God's name, meaning that we decide, that we mull it over, right? Imagine if we were to say to a person, you have a choice of eternal bliss or eternal hell. And the person says,
Think about it.
that's a tough one. I don't know. I'm pulled and I'm pulled. From the perspective of the angels, from the perspective of those who are in the heavenly realm, what are we thinking about? What are we grappling with? What are we deciding? Are you kidding? What are the two sides of the coin? The very fact that we have to decide, that we struggle with a decision, and then let's say at the end we come out, all right, I'll choose the eternal, right? So, and now you want reward for that? Right? So you've gotten over your state of being, your state of lunacy. Now you want reward. I'm talking about from the perspective of the spiritual realm, where everything is perfectly clear. The very fact that we struggle with these decisions shows just how disconnected we are. So the angel said, Ma liyulud isha beinenu. What is this physical being with their physical wants and lusts and pulls? And then sometimes they'll decide to do good. Wonderful. What is that? What is such a being doing with us here in the spiritual realm? It's a desecration of God's name. From the perspective of the angels, the up and back, the decision that we need to make, the fact that we grapple with such decisions, is a desecration of God's name. Steve.
I understand with all the qualifications that you made to the decision, and it's a no-brainer under all those qualifications. But that's our greatness.
Didn't I say before that the very essence of that which is our downfall is the vehicle? Let's see. Okay? Amar lahen. Hashem said back to these angels, L'kabel Torah ba. He's here to receive the Torah. The time has come where the Torah is going to be given to humankind. That's what he's here to do. Amru lefanav. They were not all that happy with this response. They said, the angels said before God, Chamuda, Ginuza, this treasure that has been hidden away, Shegenuza Lecha, that's been hidden away for Chameot V'Shivim V'Arba Dorot, for 974 generations. Kodem Shenivra Ha'olam, prior to the worlds having been created. Now, what are these 974 generations? What is this talking about? Rashi explains, Rashi over here on the Gemara explains, there's a pasuk which says, Davar Tziva in Tehillim, Davar Tziva le'elef dor. This is a matter that was commanded for 1,000 generations. Meaning that at some, however we'll understand a thought process in regard to God, that the Torah was meant to be given after 1,000 generations. But the world would not have existed for those 1,000 generations. Therefore the world was given after, the Torah was given after 26 generations. So we are short how many? 974. That's the generations that this is a reference to. On Shabbos, when we say that Tehillim is part of Psukei de Zimra, Kili Olam Chasto, Kili Olam Chasto, Losin Vaskos Vado Kilam Chasto, Losin Mashmai Vitvuna, Kilam Chasto, because your kindness is eternal, we say that 26 times. Because that's a reference to the 26 generations that existed before the Torah was given. If you look through, right, from Adam until you get to Moshe, there are 26 generations. So those 26 generations existed based on God's chesed, because we weren't, so to speak, earning our keep, earning our brachot that were coming from the heavens by our actions. On another level, there are those that explain that these are creations that took place before the present creation. The present creation we know about. There was Adam and Chava, etc., etc. But there were other creations. Some explain it, Va'aretz haita tohu vavohu. The land was in a state of tohu vavohu, meaning that it was after a destruction of a previous go at it. Again, with God, we have to be very careful with that. But of a previous system that was in place, and perhaps and some use those midrashim to explain the idea of the fossils and the dinosaur bones, and this man who was measured to be who knows how many hundreds of thousands of years old. Okay. So this hidden treasure, Atam avakesh litna lebasar v'dam. Once again, you want to give it to basar v'dam, to flesh and blood. Ma enosh. They're all the same. It's a one-pager. They're all the same. Ma enosh. Ki tis karenu. What is enosh, mankind, that you should remember him? Uven Adam, and the Son of Man. Ki tifkidenu, that you should be mindful of him. Hashem Adonenu, Hashem our Master, Ma'adir Shimcha, how awesome is your name over the Chol Haaretz, over all the land. Asher Tnei Hodcha al Hashamayim. Give your splendor al Hashamayim. Your Torah, the splendor, should remain in the heavens. Now we're going to need to go up and back. The obvious question is a point that Moshe is going to be making soon to them. Okay? What do you mean the Torah should remain in the heavens? The Torah speaks of Egypt. The Torah speaks of of parents. Right? The Torah speaks in a very earthly sense. We're going to come to that soon. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, Hachazir lahen teshuva. You give them an answer. Why was it that why couldn't God answer on his behalf? Why did Moshe need to give an answer? Whatever the answer is going to be, why did Moshe need it? Why did God tell Moshe, you give an answer?
First of all, he's there.
So's God.
No, but Moshe's asking for this thing.
But he's Basar B'Dam.
Okay. So Moshe, you're giving an answer, or you're. So Dov wants to say, if you want Torah, you've got to seize the initiative and get it. Yeah. Right? Which is a lesson, I think, for all of us. It's not just going to come to us. Right? We need to actually make the effort. Hashem said to Moshe, give them an answer. Amar lefanov, he said before me, Baruch Shalom, Master of the universe, mityarei ani. I am frightened. Shema yisrafuni behevel shebepihem. I am frightened that I will be burned by the hevel, by the smoke, by the intensity of that which is coming out befihem, from their mouths. I imagine this is a reference to the absolute clarity and purity of these angels. Amar lo. And this speaks to what I mentioned before and Steve also mentioned. Hashem said to Moshe, Achoz b'kisei kivodi v'chazor lahen teshuva. Grab hold of my kisei hakavod. Strange idea. What's a kisei?
It's a chair.
A chair.
A chair
Hakavod.
Of honor.
Of honor. My throne of glory. And give them an answer. So, on a very simple level, you're afraid of them? Well, hold on over here. And that will give you security. But the commentators and the Mefarshim explain that Hashem was telling Moshe what the thrust of his response should be. He was leading Moshe towards his response. Kisei hakavod, the throne of glory. Does God have a throne? God doesn't have any physicality, any corporeality. There is no seat, there is no throne. But it's a term, as in all of the anthropomorphic terms, it's a term that is used to give us an appreciation. What does a seat, what does a throne do?
Gives you power.
It gives us power. And let's say it's not a throne, because it's a kisei, it's a seat. What is a seat doing right now for each and every one of us?
Supporting us.
Supporting us. It's holding us up. All right? All right? We don't need a demonstration, right? But without the seat, right, we'd be on the floor.
Supported for the
right? So God's kisei, so to speak, is that which holds up. Holds up what? Kisei hakavod. It's the seat of his honor. It's that which holds up his honor. Well, what holds up God's honor? So the Gemara says a very strange thing. The Gemara says, what is the kisei hakavod, the throne, the seat of God's honor? What is it comprised of? Is it pine? Is it cedar? Is it maple? Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it shayish? What is it made of? The Gemara says the neshamot, the souls of the tzaddikim, of the righteous. You mean God's sitting on this? What does that mean? Right? We understand. If the kisei hakavod is not a seat, it's that which holds up. Holds up what? Hakavod. That which holds up God's honor. What supports God's honor? The tzaddikim, the righteous. How do they support God's honor? Even more than the angels, even more than the malachim. What is the meaning of the word malach? Malach means angel. What else does malach mean?
Messenger.
A messenger. An angel is simply a messenger of God. It automatically, inherently, does the will of God. It is robotized in that respect. It is the very fact that we are basar vadam, that we are flesh and blood, that we do have these very, very different pulls that are yanking at us in such opposite directions, and that we have to struggle, and that hopefully we overcome, or at least overcome more often than we succumb. That is the tzaddikim who make the right decisions. Ultimately, making the right decisions, they are the ones that hold up God's honor. So Hashem said to Moshe, take hold of the kisei hakavod. What was he in effect saying to Moshe? Grab hold in your response to the greatness of the potential of man. The greatness of what man can accomplish that the angels cannot accomplish. If they are advocating, let the Torah remain in the heavenly sphere, you've got to explain why it is that the Torah needs to be given specifically to basar v'dam, to flesh and blood, specifically to a yilud isha, to a child born to a woman. And what is the path to that response? Holding on to the kisei hakavod. Shneimar, as it says, ma'achez, he took hold, penei, kisei, he took hold of that chair, of the front of that chair, the face of the throne. Parshaz alav anano, and God spread upon him the anan, his cloud. Rav Nachman explains Molameh to teach us a piresh, shakai, that God spread, meziv shchinato, he spread upon Moshe from the glory of his presence, va'anano, and of his cloud, alav, on him. Now Moshe had the key to his response, and he goes all in on it. Amar lefanov, he said before, Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, Torah shata notain li, this Torah that you're giving to me, ma ketiv ba, what's written in that Torah? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotziticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am Hashem, your God, who brought you out from the land of Egypt. And we discussed before, Eretz Mitzrayim is the land of Egypt, but it's also Meitzarim. Min ha-Meitza karatika, from the depths, from the confinements. I call out to you. Constraints, thank you. Amar lehen, he turned to the angels and said to them, L'mitzrayim yaradatem. Did you go down to Egypt? L'paro hishtabadatem. Were you enslaved to Pharaoh? Torah lama tehei lachem. The Torah, why should it be for you? He's on a roll. Shuv ma ketiv ba. Further, what's written in there? In the Ten Commandments, Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim. You shall not have any other gods. Do not worship any other deities, any other powers. Bein amim atem shruyim. Sha'ovdim avodah zara. Do you dwell amongst the nations of the world that in fact serve idolatry? We turn the page. Avodat gilulum, that they serve this idolatry. Actually, avodat, we have different terms for idolatry. We have avodah zara. Avodah is service. Zara is strange, foreign, because it's a foreign service. We're meant to serve God. There's avodat kochavim, it's called, the serving of the stars, because that is what people view as the great beyond. And there's avodat gilulim. You'll pardon me, gilulim is excrement. And it's a bit of a derogatory term, that's what you are serving. You are serving the gilulim. Shuv, furthermore, ma ketiv ba, what's written there? Zachor et yom ha-shabbat likadsho. Remember the day of Shabbat, likadsho, to sanctify it. Klum atem osim melacha. Do you do any work? Sha'atem tzrichim Shavuot, that you need to then rest, desist, abstain, lishbot. Shuv, furthermore, ma ketiv ba, what's written there? Lo tisa. Right, that refers to the different business dealings that we have. Don't take Hashem's name in vain. When will a person take Hashem's name in vain? When my back's against the wall. Did you do this? I swear I didn't. Masa v'matan yesh b'neichem. Are there any business dealings amongst you that a person will need to take an oath, and we are being told and warned not to say God's name in vain? Shuv makativa. Furthermore, what's written there? Kaved et avicha ve'et imecha. Honor your father. Honor your mother. Av'eim yesh lachem. Do you angels, do you in the heavenly sphere, do you have parents? Shuv makativa. Furthermore, what's written there? Lo tirtzach, lo tinaf, lo tignov. Do not murder. Do not commit forbidden relationships, adultery. Lo tignov. Do not steal. Kina yesh b'neichem. Is there any jealousy amongst you? Which leads to a retzicha, to a murder. Yetzer hara yesh b'neichem. Is there a yetzer hara amongst you? Miyad hodu lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Immediately the angels were convinced, and they admitted to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As it says, Shnema Hashem Adoneinu Mad Yeshimcha. Right? How great is your name? But the end of the pasuk, ilu, whereas the end, the conclusion, Tnei Hodchal Hashemayim lo ketiv. It does not say give your honor on the heavens. They agreed. God's honor, the Torah, should come down over here. Now, what is going on over here? What Moshe is saying is so obvious. The Torah is for Olam Hazeh, is for this world. It tells our story of Mitzrayim, Yitziat Mitzrayim. And it speaks our language, as Moshe so clearly said. What was the Hava Amina, so to speak, as we use in Talmudic jargon? What were we thinking? What were the angels thinking here? Ramban, Nachmanides, in his introduction to the Torah, explains, and we learned through it between Mincha and Marav over the course of a number of weeks, right, closer, maybe even a couple of months, to work our way through it in its entirety. Ramban explains that the Torah, in its pristine form, was a string of letters. We know just how abstract, not limited, the Torah is. Our Sefer Torah is not broken up into sentences. There are no nekudot. There is no vowelization, because each of those steps limits it to a certain level of understanding, a certain meaning. The Torah, as we have it, without the vowels, without the trup, it opens itself up to many, many meanings. Actually, in the Gemara class this morning, we're learning Yuma, and the Gemara there listed 5 cases where they were unsure, at least one person, Yosef ben Hutzel, Yosef Mehutzel, was unsure of the trup, because the trup, the way we sing it, that's what gives us our pauses. And that's what groups words together. That they were unsure of the trup, and there are 5 psukim, they're not sure of the exact meaning, because there's a word which can either go with the first half, and it has one meaning, or it goes to the second half, and has another meaning. That's the Torah as we have it. But the Torah in its pristine form before it was given, it didn't even have the breaks between words. It was one long string of letters, which could be broken up in many different ways. And therefore, it can be broken up in a way that's relevant to us. Don't be jealous, don't murder, don't commit adultery. And it also exists on a completely different level, on a completely spiritual level, which is relevant to the spiritual realms, to the realm of the angels. So according to that Ramban, we can understand what they were saying. Don't break it up in a way that it gets so low, so dirty, so nitty-gritty. Don't sleep with your friend's wife. Really? Is that how we want to break it down? Are we going to bring it down to such a level? Keep it in the heavens. Break it up in a way that it retains that loftiness. Don't send it down into the dirt, into the mud. Don't give it to mankind. So according to Ramban, we understand the angels' reasoning. What then don't we understand?
We don't understand their reasoning.
We understand their reasoning now. Keep it in the heavenly realm.
Well, not from our point of view, because we know it's good for us.
So what was Moshe's answer then? Moshe said, do you have kibbud avim? Do you have parents? Do you work during the week? Are you going to rest on Shabbos? Do you have jealousy? Do you have idolatry? What was Moshe's answer? That's not an answer anymore. Their point was, don't break it up in such a way. We know the way it will be broken up for you, it deals with such mundane matters. We're not denying that. We're saying don't break it up in such a way. Don't send it down into the trenches. Keep it in the heavens. So what's Moshe's answer to them then?
For that, well, you maybe have to go through the phases of levels to be able to read it in the spiritual way.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. The angels have it. It's in a spiritual realm. It's there for them in that realm.
But for Son of Man, maybe they have to go
but
through
their
the
point,
phases.
But their point was, why degrade the Torah by breaking it up in such a way? So Moshe says, yes, but the way it's broken up for us doesn't apply to you. And they say, of course. That's our very point. Linda.
Maybe it had to be broken up in that way, or maybe Moses said that because we needed it. Unlike the angels who do whatever they do for God without a choice, we have the right to make a choice that lifts it up.
I like that answer. What Moshe was saying to them, according to this approach, is yes, it could remain in that lofty realm. It could be broken up as it is broken up in that realm. And it will stay in that beautiful, pristine, pure state. But this comes back to the Kisei HaKavod that we mentioned before. The greatest honor to God is when there is a transformation. When we rise above. Every blessing that we make is Asher Kiddush, every blessing of a mitzvah, I should say, that we make is Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, that we become sanctified with the mitzvot. So yes, Moshe understood their point. Yes, it could remain there, but it doesn't change you. It doesn't transform you. We need it. We here in the trenches, for us, it is Kihem Chayenu, V'orech Yameinu. It is our life. It is our sustenance. It is that which keeps us connected. So yes, it can remain in that pristine state, but so what? The real purpose of this Torah is to connect the physical to the spiritual. To take these krutze aretz, these yulud isha, this basar v'dam, this child of a woman, this flesh and blood, and transform that flesh and blood into an uplifted, godly human being. That is a purpose of the Torah, that if it's kept in your state,
it can't be transformed.
It can never do.
No.
It can never come close to doing that.
It has to go through this transformation process.
As we do.
But what it will mean, it will be richer for it, because it's already in a state of perfection.
The Torah is not going to be changed. The Torah will be a vehicle
it will
through
change
which
us.
It'll be a vehicle through which others can change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that, as we mentioned before, Hashem said to Moshe, you answer them. There needed to be this self-advocacy. There needed to be this clarity. You know, one of the 48 ways through which the Torah is acquired is through pilpul chaverim, through the debate with friends. Right? How does that help? Because if you need to convince someone, if you need to advocate a certain way, you have to really believe that. You have to really get it clear. And through that discussion process, the Gemara says, O chavruta o mituta, a study partner or death. That's what Rav Yochanan said when he lost his great chavrusa, Reish Lakish. O chavrusa o mituta, a chavrusa or death. Right? If I'm not going to get that clarity, you sit by yourself, yeah, it all makes sense. It all sounds good. Try to explain it to someone, then you realize how you've got to understand it. You've got to internalize it. The Gemara elsewhere, the Gemara Makkah says, Rav says, I learned a lot from my Rabbeim, from my teachers. I learned even more from my friends. Umei talmidayim, from my students, yoser mikulam. I learned the most from my students. And two ways that I understand that and that I myself have experienced that is, first of all, very often a person with a certain experience and learning takes certain things for granted. But you don't really understand necessarily the foundation as well as you should. But you've just been building on this foundation. And then along comes students who don't necessarily have that foundation, and they start to tap away at the foundation. And it makes you get the foundation that much clearer. And also I found that when you are explaining something in order to explain it, you have to organize it that much clearer in your mind. I remember the first time that I was giving a Gemara class. As I'm giving the class, all of a sudden, and it's becoming that much more clear to me than it had been before, as I'm teaching it, all of a sudden I said, 1 second, it doesn't line up. And I opened up the Sefer, the Ritva asks that question. One of the commentators, one of the Rishonim asked that question. And as I'm teaching, I'm getting all these questions in my head, because I'm getting it that much clearer. When you've got to advocate, when you've got to argue, that is when you clarify for yourself and internalize whatever it is that you are putting forth. So Moshe needed to internalize it. Moshe needed to have this perfect clarity of what the Torah was meant to do. As a manhig, as a leader, as the leader of Bnei Yisrael, he needed to understand that the Torah is meant to be transformative, but in order to be transformative, there needs to be these decisions. And if it's truly a decision, you sometimes make the right decision, and you often make the wrong decision. If you're always making the right decision, then it's not truly a decision, it's not truly a nisayon, it's not truly a challenge. And therefore, that is what the Torah is meant to do, and that was the people that it was going to be given to, and therefore as a leader, he needed to understand that also. Miyad, immediately, kol echad ve'echad nase lo ohev. Interesting. These angels who are arguing against Moshe's receiving the Torah, suddenly they become an ohev to him. What's ohev?
Friend.
A friend. They love him. Interesting. I understand that they might agree. All right, we give, we acquiesce. All right, fair enough. Why do they become his? They love him. Umasalo davar, and they started to give him these different. They started to teach him different aspects. Shenemar alita lamarom, you went up to the heights. Shavita shevi, you took captive. Right, that was his advocating to receive the Torah, and then. Lakachta matanot ba'adam. You took matanot, you took gifts ba'adam. Strange. You took gifts ba'adam as a man. And we explained bischar as the reward shikra'ucha adam, that they called you man. Lakachta matanot. You took gifts. Va'af malachamavet, even the angel of death, that angel, Masa lo davar, gave him a gift. Shenemar as it was. V'yitin et haktor v'yichaper al ha'am. Va'omer, v'yamod, bein anesim, u'bein achayim. When there was this plague, so Hashem said, so Moshe told Aaron, take the Torah, and you take the incense, burn that as a kapara, as an atonement for the people. And that way he separated between the living and the dead. How did Moshe know this? Ilav da'amalei mi'aveyada. Had he not been told by the Malach HaMavet, how would he have known? But let's double back again to the question I asked before. Why did they become an ohev? Why did they love him? Fair enough. You won the argument. You're right. All right. You can have the Torah. Why did they become an ohev? What would you say, Janet?
Because with all this improvement, they saw that was going to contribute to Chavod. You know, the Chisei, eventually that...
Okay, nice answer.
If you go back
nice
to the
answer.
The angels, that was one of the main purposes.
Okay, nice answer is that they understood that will now give more kavod, more honor to God, and that's what they're all about. So they become the ohev. Interesting. I had another thought. Yaakov's dream. Yaakov's dream is the angels going up and down the ladder. Some explain that this ladder represents mankind. This ladder with its feet on the earth and the head reaching to the heavens, that represents mankind. That we walk this earth, but our spiritual essence, our spiritual self reaches up to the heavens. So what then is represented by the angels going up and down? That the angels level, the spiritual level of the world can rise or plunge based upon the actions of mankind. So why, according to that, would the angels become an ohev now? Now they understand, besides Moshe getting it clear, now they understand that their ultimate level is dependent upon this lowly mankind.
That's responsibility for people.
Yeah. Yes.
Huge weight.
I'm sorry?
Huge weight upon the shoulders.
Yes. Yes. And that the spiritual level of the world is dependent upon our avodat Hashem, our service to God. And when I say the world, it doesn't just mean the physical world. It's all levels of this world. At that point, they said, oh, not only are we no longer going to contest this, right? You love someone that you've got to share in who they are. You've got some skin in the game. That's normally when we love someone. We love a spouse. We love children. We love siblings. We love parents. This week's parsha, students, real students, Talmidim, become like children, people that you really care for. When you realize that when there's skin in the game, there is this ahava. They now understand that not only should they not contest this, they've got a tremendous stake in what happens over here. And therefore, they should do whatever they can do to help. And therefore, what do? They each go and they give these matanot. They each go and give these gifts, these teachings, to help Moshe on this mission that affects him, the children of Israel, mankind, and all of the creations on all of their levels. So that is how the Gemara describes this ascent to the heavens and this receiving of the Torah, and in a few short hours, maybe 50, 60, whatever it is, right, that is when we will start our Chag Shavuot, our holiday of Shavuot, the holiday of Matan Torah. There are still some, if you have internet, I can't sign you up over here, but there are still some slots available for those who would like to join in and do some of the sharing, to do some preparation on the connection between the Torah reading and the Haftorah for each of the parsha we'll be going through. So please do sign up. Either way, please do join us. Join us for the meal. We'll just let the office know, so we have an accurate count of the meal we'll be having after Mariv, and we'll start the learning right there. And the learning will go the entire night until about 4:45, when we start to get ready for Shacharit. Yes.
So from what you said, that the human being and our behavior, our understanding, our spiritual growth is really navigating the world, so to speak.
Yeah.
The world is moving forward or backwards or whatever.
Yeah, and the Torah is what allows, is what guides us to properly navigate the world. But then we're in the driver's seat.
Driver's seat, that's what it means. Which means we're more superior than angels and all these other creatures.
We have a greater potential in angels.
Greater potential, because they can't grow.
Correct.
But we can.
The angels are called an omed, a stander, and we are called a holech, one who progresses, one who moves forward.
They cannot expand, they cannot progress.
Correct.
They're stuck where they are.
Correct.
Forever.
Correct. Okay, Dov, you want to? Thanks.
This
Yes,
is
Jen.
parenthetical. I know I'm always bringing sidebars, but it kind of